Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye are as graves which appear not, and the men that walk over them are not aware of them. These are not gentle words. These are not soft corrections. These are strong, direct warnings coming from Jesus himself. Think about this for a moment. The Pharisees were not criminals. They were not known as evil people in society. They were respected teachers. They were seen as holy men. Many people looked up to them as examples of how to live right before God. So why would Jesus speak to them like this? Why would he compare them to hidden graves, something dangerous that people cannot even see? Why was there always tension whenever Jesus and the Pharisees met? Was it because they misunderstood each other, or was something deeper going on? In this video, we are going to look closely at this question. We will break it down step by step so you can clearly understand why Jesus often stood against the Pharisees and what it means for us today. What is the origin of the Pharisees? The Pharisees did not begin as bad people. Their origin can be traced back to a time when the Jewish people were trying to stay faithful to God in a world full of foreign influence. After the Old Testament period, especially during times when other nations ruled over Israel, many Jews feared that God's law would be forgotten. So, a group of people rose up with a strong desire to protect the law of Moses. These people later became known as the Pharisees. The name Pharisee means separated ones. They separated themselves from anything they believed was unclean or sinful. Their goal was to live pure and holy lives according to the law. They studied the scriptures deeply. They taught people how to obey God's commands. Over time, they also added many traditions and extra rules to make sure the law was strictly followed. At the beginning, their intention was good. They wanted to honor God and keep his people faithful. But as time passed, their focus slowly shifted. Instead of helping people understand God's heart, they began to focus more on rules, traditions, and outward actions. This change is what later brought them into conflict with Jesus. The Pharisees were known as religious leaders. They studied the law, taught the people, and were respected by many. On the outside, they seemed like the kind of people who should have understood Jesus better than anyone else. But instead, they often argued with him, challenged him, and rejected his message. So, what caused this constant conflict? Why did Jesus speak so strongly against them? Was it because they followed the law too closely, or because they had lost the true meaning of God's word? Who were the Pharisees? Before explaining the conflict, give beginners simple background. Main points to cover. The Pharisees were a Jewish religious group. They were known for strict obedience to the law of Moses. They were respected by many people. They focused heavily on rules, traditions, and outward holiness. They saw themselves as guardians of religious purity. Simple transition line. At first glance, the Pharisees looked like the kind of people Jesus should have praised. They were religious, disciplined, and knowledgeable in the scriptures. So what went wrong? Jesus was not against the law, but against hypocrisy. Jesus was not against the law of God. In fact, he respected it and lived by it perfectly. But what he strongly opposed was hypocrisy. The Pharisees were known for teaching the law. They could explain it in detail, and they expected others to follow it strictly. But many of them did not live by the same standard they taught. They said the right things, but their lives did not always match their words. They focused more on how things looked on the outside. They wanted people to see them as holy, disciplined, and righteous. They prayed in public, followed rituals carefully, and made sure others noticed their actions. But Jesus looked deeper. He cared about the heart. He cared about true righteousness that comes from within, not just actions done to impress others. In Matthew chapter 23, Jesus spoke directly about this. He exposed a dangerous pattern. They appeared clean and righteous on the outside, but inside many were filled with pride, selfishness, and spiritual blindness. For Jesus, true obedience to God was not about performance. It was about a sincere heart that truly seeks God. 5. The Pharisees added heavy burdens on people. Another reason Jesus was in conflict with the Pharisees is because they placed heavy burdens on people. The Pharisees did not only teach God's law, they also added many extra rules and traditions. These were not given by God, but they expected people to follow them as if they were just as important. For ordinary people, this made religion very difficult. Instead of feeling close to God, many felt overwhelmed. They were constantly worried about doing something wrong. They felt judged, not helped. In Matthew 23:4, Jesus said, "For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders." This shows how the Pharisees placed pressure on others, but did not make life easier for them. Instead of guiding people with love, they created a system full of rules that brought fear and stress. But Jesus came with a different message. He brought truth, mercy, and freedom. He invited people to come to God with open hearts, not under pressure. Where the Pharisees made things heavy, Jesus made the way clear and full of grace. 6. Jesus challenged their pride and love of status. Jesus also challenged the pride and love of status that was common among many Pharisees. They enjoyed being seen and honored by people. They liked important seats in public places. They loved titles that made them look great, like teacher or leader. To them, respect from people was very important. But Jesus taught something very different. He taught that true greatness in God's kingdom is not about being above others, but about serving others. He showed that humility, kindness, and sincerity matter more than titles or public praise. This message went directly against what many Pharisees valued. If people started following Jesus' teaching, the Pharisees would lose their influence and respect. Their position in society was being challenged. Jesus made it clear that God is not impressed by status. God looks at the heart. As he taught, the greatest person is not the one who is praised the most, but the one who serves the most. This truth exposed their pride, and it became another reason why they opposed him so strongly. 7. Jesus exposed their spiritual blindness. Jesus also exposed the spiritual blindness of the Pharisees, and this is one reason his words were so sharp. These were men who knew the scriptures very well. They studied the law, taught others, and understood many religious practices. But even with all this knowledge, they failed to recognize Jesus, the very Messiah they were waiting for. They could identify rituals and traditions, but they could not see the heart of God. They focused on doing things the right way on the outside, but missed what truly mattered on the inside. In Matthew 23:23, Jesus pointed this out clearly. He said they paid attention to small details, but neglected the most important things: justice, mercy, and faithfulness. They were careful about minor rules, but careless about how they treated people. They followed systems, but missed compassion. This is why Jesus spoke so strongly. It was not just about mistakes. It was about being blind to the truth while thinking they could see clearly. They had knowledge, but lacked true understanding of God's heart.